Hello everybody and welcome to Station 3, titled The Colonies Description. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 13 original colony regions. Okay, there were 3 of them. You can see those in keywords: Southern colonies, New England colonies, and the Middle colonies. Those are the 3 regions. We're going to learn about the similarities and the differences and how they interacted and things like that. Some other keywords we're gonna use are cultivate, slavery, and women's role. So we're gonna get started on the colonies description in Station 3. Okay, so this little chart here, this shows you all the different aspects of Southern, Middle, and New England. Okay, so once we get started here, the most unique of all the colonies are the southern colonies, and you can see the characteristics right there on the screen. The biggest thing you need to know about the southern colonies is that they're all about farming and they're all about cash crops. Okay, so at this time, cotton wasn't that big, so they grew a lot of tobacco, rice, and indigo. Tobacco and indigo being the major cash crops. Indigo is like this plant that you use to dye clothes. Okay, so it was very expensive at the time, and the South made a lot of money from it. But the biggest thing you know about the South as far as characteristics go is that they were all about farming. So because they were all about farming, they had the most slaves and the most indentured servants because they needed tons of people to work these large plantations. Okay, now let's reach back all the way and remember what an indentured servant is. Okay, an indentured servant is a person who works like a slave, but they have kind of more of a light at the end of the tunnel. They have more of a chance of freedom, okay, if they make it out alive. The conditions were extremely grueling. They're extremely horrible. Alright, so if we look over all the way to the right, we'll notice that New England doesn't have a lot of things as far as farming goes. Okay, in fact, they don't have any, because farming is a weakness of the New England colonies. They don't have the nice soil like the middle or the southern colonies. New England has this rocky, difficult to farm soil that can only sustain or have basic farms for people to live off of. So the New England colonies, their weakness is that they don't have a lot of agriculture, but they do have a lot of skilled people, like blacksmiths and printing presses. So New England has a lot to offer as far as food for the colonies and building boats and things like that, but farming is definitely their weakness. Now, if we look here, these are the 2 polar opposites. We have the manufacturing here, and we have the agriculture here. Okay, so now we get to the middle. Now, the middle are different than the New England and the Southern. Okay, they're different than the New England and the Southern because the middle has the best of both worlds. They have decent farms, and they also have skilled people making stuff in manufacturing. So agriculture for Southern, manufacturing for New England, and the middle is kind of both at the same time, and that's why they're different. Now, the problem with having the best of both worlds is that the middle colonies really didn't have a lot of labor or didn't have a lot of people to work. So they didn't have a lot of people to work, but they still needed somebody to cultivate the soil. Now, cultivate means to get the soil ready for it to grow things. Okay, so what we're doing in this class is I am cultivating you to hopefully become a very wise historian. Okay, but cultivate means to get ready for some kind of product. Okay, so the middle colonies were cultivated by slaves. They needed slaves in order to work the land. And interestingly enough, when they ran out of labor for the manufacturing too, the middle colonies needed to hire indentured servants for when they ran out of labor for the big cities, they needed indentured servants. Okay, so when they needed people to cultivate the land, they called on slaves, and when they needed people to fill the labor or in the cities, they hired indentured servants. Okay, now so you can just look at this real quick. This will give you a good idea about the differences and what these different places were like. Okay, so this right here, this is how women worked in the original colonies. The women were very important because they contributed to the economy, and women don't have much of a role, or as much of a role, in other colonies as they do in the middle colonies. In the middle colonies, women have a lot more liberties than they do in the other ones. In the middle colonies, women ran farms, businesses, and they practiced medicine. They were doctors. So for the economy, they ran farms, businesses, and they practiced medicine, which this was very rare for the time, and that much about this. So, so very, very interesting for the women to have that much of a role. Okay, make sure you go to the description and watch the bonus video. Thank you very much.